Picture this. You're accused of a crime. You're standing alone in court and you can't afford a lawyer. How would you defend yourself against seasoned prosecutors, complex legal rules, and the overwhelming weight of the justice system? For Clarence Earl Gideon, this wasn't just a nightmare, it was reality. His fight for justice didn't just change his life, it redefined the American legal system and became a cornerstone of the right to fair trials. This is the remarkable story of Gideon versus Wainwright, a case that reshaped justice for millions. Who was Clarence Earl Gideon? Clarence Earl Gideon was far from an ideal protagonist for a landmark Supreme Court case. Born into poverty in Missouri in 1910, he dropped out of school after the 8th grade and spent much of his life drifting from one low-paying job to another. His life was marked by hardship and frequent brushes with the law, often for petty crimes. By 1961, Gideon found himself in Panama City, Florida, living in a boarding house and struggling to make ends meet. That year, he was accused of breaking into the Bay Harbor pool hall and stealing money and items from its vending machines. The charges were serious, and if convicted, he faced a lengthy prison sentence. Gideon, unable to afford legal counsel, asked the court to appoint an attorney to defend him. His request was denied, as Florida law at the time only provided court-appointed lawyers in capital cases. Left to represent himself, Gideon did his best to navigate the courtroom, but he lacked the legal knowledge and training necessary to mount an effective defense. Predictably, he was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But Gideon wasn't content to quietly serve his sentence. He believed his constitutional rights had been violated, and he decided to fight back. From his prison cell, Gideon began a journey that would change the American justice system forever. He filed a handwritten petition for a writ of certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court, challenging his conviction on the grounds that he had been denied the right to legal counsel. The central question was profound. Does the Sixth Amendment's guarantee of the right to legal counsel apply to defendants in state courts via the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause? This wasn't an entirely new issue. In the 1942 case of Betts versus Brady, the Supreme Court had ruled that states were not required to provide attorneys to indigent defendants in non-capital cases unless special circumstances existed. Gideon's case directly challenged this precedent, arguing that the right to legal counsel was fundamental to a fair trial, regardless of the circumstances or the jurisdiction. In 1963, the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled in favor of Gideon, overturning Betts versus Brady and establishing a new standard for the right to counsel. Justice Hugo Black, writing for the court, stated, "In our adversary system of criminal justice, any person hailed into court who is too poor to hire a lawyer cannot be assured a fair trial unless counsel is provided for him." This landmark decision underscored the principle that access to legal representation is not a privilege, but a fundamental right, essential to a fair trial. The court held that the Sixth Amendment's right to counsel was applicable to state courts through the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. The implications of Gideon versus Wainwright were profound and immediate. Gideon's conviction was overturned, and he was retried with the assistance of a court-appointed attorney. This time, with effective legal representation, Gideon was acquitted. His case became a powerful symbol of the transformative power of justice. The ruling required all states to provide legal counsel to defendants charged with serious crimes who could not afford an attorney. This decision laid the foundation for the establishment of public defender systems across the United States, ensuring that even the poorest defendants would have access to competent legal representation. The legacy of Gideon versus Wainwright extended far beyond Clarence Gideon's acquittal. It reshaped the American criminal justice system, emphasizing the importance of fairness and equality under the law. The case also paved the way for subsequent decisions that expanded the right to counsel, such as Argersinger versus Hamlin, 1972, which held that defendants facing potential jail time in misdemeanor cases were also entitled to legal representation. However, the implementation of Gideon's promise has not been without challenges. Public defender systems across the country often face chronic underfunding, overwhelming caseloads, and disparities in the quality of representation. These systemic issues continue to raise questions about whether the full promise of Gideon has been realized. Gideon v. Wainwright serves as a stark reminder of the power of the judicial system to correct injustices and uphold constitutional principles. It demonstrated that even an ordinary citizen, armed with nothing but determination and a belief in justice, could challenge entrenched systems and win. The case also highlights the ongoing struggle to ensure equal access to justice for all, particularly for marginalized and vulnerable populations. As debates about criminal justice reform and mass incarceration continue, the principles established in Gideon v. Wainwright remain as relevant as ever. The story of Gideon v. Wainwright reminds us that justice is not a privilege for the few, it's a right for all. Clarence Gideon's fight for fairness reshaped the American legal system and ensured that no one would face the power of the state without a lawyer by their side. But the battle isn't over. Today, public defenders still face overwhelming challenges, and the promise of Gideon remains unfulfilled for many. If this story inspires you, take a moment to share it, engage in the conversation about justice reform, and advocate for the resources needed to ensure that fairness is more than an ideal. It's a reality. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories that highlight the power of justice and the resilience of the human spirit. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.